Okay, before the break, there was a question pop up about installing Java FX, and I immediately answered the question. It was like, we'll get to that soon. We're going to look at it because it's in the textbook. Um, it's still the official language. There's some interesting points, like when they made Java, what they thought was going to take 6 months ended up taking 20 years. So they don't want to let go of it yet. But during those 20 years, Java and other programming languages, namely Python, learned that if you have an official GUI package, you're going to be stuck with that forever. And you can never get rid of it, and you have to always be backward compatible with it, which puts other restrictions on the programming languages. At least the one in Java is 10 years newer than the TK interface package. The Python is going to be forever stuck with now until they decide to just completely abandon backward compatibility. But Java has the same thing with Sling. They're restricted, or they're either restricted in certain ways, or they have to abandon backward compatibility. And they don't. Neither one's good. So when they got the interface package they wanted together, Java FX. So the question was about before the break. What they did is they handed it over to Apache and said, we don't want to make this part of the official language because we don't want to be stuck with it. So it's the most official, unofficial GUI package for Java. But like everything, there's lots and lots and lots of libraries. There's no shortage of artists, no Java code, and sat down and drew rectangles and did all the style form and stuff. But it's the most official, unofficial thing. So it's an external library, and we just bring that in. We just bring that in, same as we'll do with MySQL thing. I immediately answered that question when it popped up, but things are changing. The industry's changing, and one of the big changes, which a lot of people are already writing their code someplace that does this, is everything's being handled as web applications, because there's this external software that we can use. That we write a web application that runs in a browser like normal. All is well and good because everything has a browser on it. But we can put it in this other software, and it will automatically create a desktop application from any web application. That's what we're going to look at this semester. Statewide, it's changing. The statewide version hasn't changed because it goes in cycles. Python has already changed. This past summer was the first run of Python making that change. So the GUI package is done with HTML now, and the Python 200 level course. C# is next, and then it'll be Java's turn to switch over. And C++, we removed GUI packages from C++ class and showed how to make a GUI in another language just tie into C++ because that's what you would actually do with it. So instead of doing over the past couple of years, academia moves slow to make changes. It takes a minute, and Ivy Tech Community College is huge. This is statewide college. There's only one community college in Indiana, really. It's statewide. Everybody in Indiana is within 45 minutes of a campus. And there's so many Ivy Tech students that periodically the state Congress has to make decisions because it's just going to affect that many Hoosiers. It's great for pooling resources and stuff, right? We have a statewide college, a huge system, but it's a huge system, so change moves slowly, and we're making that change. And since that change is already underway, when I revamped our course, I went ahead and went with it. So we're not using the Java FX package. I have it pulled up here. Under assignments, if categories by group, the student view tries to default, but it says by date, but it does not put them in order of date. It randomizes them. But there is a group button, and you put them in the category or whatever. And the semester project is going to use JSP. So your interface will be made with HTML. And afterwards, if you want a desktop app, you can just throw it in Docker. We'll see how to do that later this semester. Instead of using the Java FX thing. Which And if it helps to ease any concerns, I'm a very laid back person. And when I was checking to make sure I didn't leave a typo in there, I noticed I actually put a note in here that says, obviously, I haven't finished this yet. Actually, the note even has a typo. Obviously, that's not finished yet. So I still have to finish those instructions, but a basic progress report. Just a reminder that I'm a very laid back person. I understand things happen. I'd actually completely forgot I need to come back and finish this. It's written on the checklist in a Google Doc that I apparently haven't looked at in a while. But the basic progress report, and then the submission, like our homework assignments, is just gonna be through GitHub. But since it's a web application, if you want to host it somewhere and send me the link to where you hosted it, that would work as well. But it'll be enough to put it on GitHub and just send me the links to the GitHub. So we won't be using JavaFX for the final project, or FXML, which is an improved version of it, a markup language. So it's more efficient, but we will see that stuff though. So we will look at that in a couple weeks. But as soon as that question popped up, I didn't even think about it. Yeah, so we're doing software development is in transition right now. Really, what brought it about was that everybody knew changes were happening and there were different directions. But then when this thing called Docker was created, it all focused to the same direction. So everything is being reoriented to what Docker does, which is the industry scale. It is really, really awesome software, and it allows us to use those HTML standards, the thing that actually has standards, so everybody in the world knows the same programming language and learns to use it in the same way, which makes software development overall and improves it overall. So we're looking at the modern one instead of JavaFX, but JavaFX does have some nice features. And yeah, as a markup language, browsers do know it. Browsers know how to deal with markup languages. So we can include instructions to tell a browser. Actually, we have to include instructions to tell a browser how to translate our markup language into HTML. But that's an automated process in the background. We just have to include files, if that makes sense. So don't worry about the JavaFX. The industry is moving away from it, and since the change is coming to Ivy Tech very soon, C#'s next, and then the following year will be Java. Academia moves slow, but I know what the change is going to be. I already adjusted. I know what the change is going to be, even though it's still a year away. So we already made that change for our course. Okay, back to our example. The big thing is the background stuff, right? This example is trivial. We're leaving big gaps in it. And I've even made a couple of things that were bad form, explicitly stated as because of the time constraints. But the important thing is everybody see the background aspects there, like how we're using the interface. And that one, the book kind of left off the difference between the abstract class abstract method and the interface abstract method, as far as when we would need one versus the other, and why they're not really as interchangeable as they look like in the Lang text. That was one of the big things. How we use enums, which for pizza toppings might make more sense to do an enum and give everything the same price, but when I was getting ready, it seemed like a good place to put classes. Lots of different ways to do things. I guess now we're ready for the two types of pizzas we can order. The predetermined specialty pizzas, or custom ones. What custom toppings do they want? Which really, to extend that far, we need to add some more custom topping classes. So a couple more classes, and see how there's a lot of them adding up here. Probably use another folder to organize these, right? And that's where the project stuff comes in. So I'm going to do some refactoring real quick. So over here, I'm going to make a new folder, which will become a package shortly. So it's inside of the pizza folder. So it's like a sub package of this package. What's a good name for it? I'll put the toppings in there. I'll make a couple of them. Now all of the topping ones, green peppers, mushrooms, pepperoni, and the parent class can all go in there. When I drag it down, we get the option for refactoring, which hopefully everybody's heard that word a few times. Refactor means clean up your code. Doesn't mean debug your code. It's imagine that you are never going to meet the person that has to maintain your code. Or you're going to finish developing it, sell it, and somebody else is going to take care of it, fix bugs and everything. You want to be as nice as you can to them. Make sure they can figure out what's going on along the way. That's what refactoring is, make it clean. Because when we put our code together, there's a lot of stuff coming off the top of our head, so it kind of gets to be a mess along the way, right? We end up with redundancies, white spaces distributed unevenly, things are in orders that don't make sense. Like if I was to type this up, all those getters and setters instead of inserting it, actually I've gone into the templates before and changed that. It really bothers me to have getter, setter, getter, setter, getter, setter. My mind wants to do all the getters, then all the setters. And that seems more organized. That's what feels organized to me. So little things like that, cleaning up the code, making it different, or correcting things. So like when we rename stuff, instead of pie, well, what else can I rename? Instead of the order here, the thing we're actually going to call, like, oh, but maybe that would be better called as place order, because it's not a data object. That's not the receipt. That's the one that's kind of like our main method. So giving it a verb name would make more sense than a noun name. So then we can still use the noun order to do the receipt version. Okay. So we might want to change that. Little things like that happen along the way. And we don't want to just go in there and type it. Because if we go in there and start retyping, we have to dig through all of our code and retype it everywhere. So what we're going to do is refactor it. So if you right click on it, and in pretty much any IDE, text editor, decent text editor, any place that you should be writing code, you should have an option to refactor, probably on a right click. Almost always on a right click, and it's just at a different place in the context. Refactor and then rename it here, and go to this version of rename, and then we can change that to place order and give it a verb name instead of a noun name to indicate that's not the data object. That's the do stuff object. And it changed it everywhere. So even back over here in our main, the computer is way, way better than you are at digging through a large pile of files and changing the same word in every single one. Most IDEs will even do it in the comments. So you have stuff in comments, you'll get there. Pizza toppings, I guess could do one more package here because things are starting to add up. I'll do another one with, I'll call the package pie. Just like toppings, pie, and then all the child classes of that. Which crust can go inside of. Oh, not pizza. Yeah, I guess just those two. And again, refactor, and it'll handle all those changes for us. So just some organization. And again, where this goes, and the reason I use Ant projects in class, it's an equivalent thing if you're using Maven, which we've mentioned before. Maven was written by the same people as Ant, so they took their lessons learned from the first one to do the second one. But one of those was to make it computer organized, not human organized, which means lots and lots and lots of folders. And in the classroom, I had a feeling I would be digging through folders. Ant has less folders to click into. So we're still in the source folder, but we have those subfolders to categorize everything. And then in our scripts, we list what package it is, because we import the package, but just like how our class name has to match the file name, the package name has to match the folder name. And it's actually the package that we're importing and documenting and all of that. Okay, a bunch of talking. I guess we're ready to, oh wait, we need subclasses of pi. We're ready to extend this a little. So I'll click on the folder here, because I want it in that organized spot, and make a new Java class. Lots and lots of ways we can do it. Lots of new buttons, and then it's in File Explorer. We can drag, copy, paste, move stuff around, no problem. Whatever is most comfortable for you, but ultimately, organization makes a big difference, right? This is a small 1-9 class example, and look at how many files we've already got. They add up. A lot of people starting into software development want to try to put lots of things in a single file. That's bad for a computer. The computer will always do much, much better the less you have, if you have more files with less in them. Even if it ultimately adds up to more lines of code, like after compiling, not just the text version, it's still better for the computer. If it helps think about ones and zeros, a computer can do one small thing, or it cannot do that thing. Lots of small things is always better than one big thing. So lots and lots of the files will add up. When you start getting into that part where you're worried about efficiency and stuff, right? Obviously machines are pretty fast anymore, so until we get very large, we don't worry about that stuff. But Java is for really, really big things. Right? Remember way back in week 1, let me cancel this. Way back in week 1 when we were doing everything in the main method, and it seemed like so much to set up the main method because there was all of that, and then we'd have 2 lines of code, and it'd be shorter than the other stuff. But now, what do we have so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 classes, getting ready to make. Where's my paper go? Not sure where I left that paper. I think I had 4 on there, or 5 on there. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I have 4 on there. So we're going to make 4 more. So 13 classes, and we still have that same setup. We haven't done extra initialization. We've just made more specialized things. Okay, so now we'll finish another example. So new Java class. Yeah, and those little notes, those are the important things. Those are things I'm hoping you're going to keep in the back of your mind for further down the road, and just the notes, because typing's easy. Right? Typing, software developers do not get paid big bucks for typing. Typing by itself does not pay much. It is the thinking behind those movements of our fingers that we get paid for. Oh, and like we talked about earlier, we don't have to type anymore. I often do voice, just lay back on a couch and talk to the phone. Send that in, just open up a text editor on the phone, do talk to text, and it's a whole lot easier than doing this. and far less likely to do carpal tunnel. As soon as I remember my password for Ripple IT, I would be trying that. I haven't found a good way to type. If we are, probably end up with voice. It's odd if anybody's ever done it. You have like a soft keyboard, and I feel like a Wild West gunslinger, trying to type one letter at a time by aiming and hitting a button. But that's cycling. The typing is easy. It's those side things, those little notes that I picked up after decades of doing this. Hopefully, you're keeping some of those in the back of your mind, and they'll benefit you somewhere along the way. What kind of pizzas do we have? Well, specialty pizzas. Which I guess would be a supreme. Specialty pizzas and a single topping pizza. Single topping. And then a custom, that's probably good. Because I want to finish up in like 20 minutes. So we need to get to that menu. Get all these comments out of the way, because they're just like kind of clutter here, especially. So specialty pizzas. Actually, I'm going to delete one of those. I'm going to list all this. Yeah, I'll do all the specialties are the same. So like a supreme, meat lovers, some basis. Just one of those keywords, it'll be this price. Because that's all we're missing now, right? Those are all going to be subclasses of pie, special versions of it, which means we need to either make those abstract or implement the methods. So we need to add toppings. For calculate cost. Actually, I'm going to do one more layer of this. So calculate cost, we'll have a set cost for those. How much are those? What's a good price for a pizza? Anybody paid attention recently? I have to eat gluten-free pizzas because it's so very expensive.
15 bucks.
15 bucks?
Okay. Without toppings.
15 bucks without toppings, so the spring probably 19, 18.
Yeah.
Gluten-free is 24. And I know there's an extra fee there, so. So for our specialty ones, we'll just return 24.0, $24. Or we should probably make that look like a price, right? $23.95. That way it looks like a price. But we still need one more layer because there's going to be different specialties, right? A supreme, a meat lovers. So let's make a child of those. New Java class, call it supreme. And this time I'll oh, this one's still abstract. That's what it's. So I'm going to add, can't add the toppings yet. So this layer still needs to be abstract. And usually in classrooms, this is what we don't have time for. That's why I decided to go ahead and go a little bit further and do a supreme and meat lovers that are extend specialty. Okay, there it goes. And again, I meant to do it in the interface, so new Java class. Meat lovers is a copyrighted trademark thing, isn't it? I'll just call it meaty. That's Supreme or I need a name really quick. So the one that's all meat, and it'll be a child of specialty. And notice how convenient this list is. We get that search bar, we can search anywhere in the Java language or anywhere on our local machine, or we can extend it to search GitHub over in the options. So basically it can automatically search anything on GitHub for us. But usually the one we want to inherit from is in our own class, is in our own package. So, and now we can, now I think we're ready to implement that last method, because we know what's going to be on here. So we need to add, this will add toppings to a list. And there's one thing that we haven't really seen it yet. I think it might have been in the homework assignment. It was definitely written in the textbook. But if I come up here and scroll back to the pie, we have this linked list of toppings that belongs to the parent object. So in our parent pie, one of our data fields is that linked list of toppings. I'll just kind of abbreviate everything here. Then we have a child of that. That's the specialties, and the child of that is that the meaty specialty pizza. But it's methods that we inherit. Toppings is private. So you might remember when we did the constructor, we always had to pass stuff back up. It'd be nice if toppings is way down here where we actually need it, right? So there's another keyword we can use for that, which I know showed up in the book. I can't remember if we used it in the home, if it showed up in the homework or not. I think I saw it in some people's homework, but I don't think it was required to do it that way in the homework. Because along with private, we can also make things protected. Oh, I left the keyword off. I mean, I left it off now when we were going there. Instead of private, we can make that protected, which is just like the is equivalent to private, except the child classes have access. I like the parent-child version of that, because private you can think of like locked in a house, right? Outsiders don't have access to that, but the children do have access to their parents' stuff because they live in the same house. So that's kind of what protected is. We're in that same house, so the parent-child relationship, the child still has access to the parent stuff directly. But from anything that's not a direct subclass of this, or subclass of a subclass of a subclass of a subclass, is another thing from this example. Y'all see how there's lots and lots of different layers, and each layer only has a small bit. Like lots of small things are always better for a computer than one big thing. And it's in way less of a mess than it looks in the text files. Remember, the compiled version does not look like the text file. Machine language and high level language are very, 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 very different. So the way it compiles is what's different there. Lots of small text files compile much, much better than a large text file. Maybe I should say it that way. Does that make sense? We get different when it's actually turned into ones and zeros that go straight to the machine. Lots of small text files, layers of inheritance, instead of putting everything in one object, lots of layers come out better is that long string of ones and zeros the machine actually gets at the end. Okay, protected. So now that's protected, which means the child classes it gets inherited along with those methods. So when we go over here, there's a lot of tabs here, so I have to scroll back and forth. I don't see it on here. Which one was it just on? Was it specialty? Oh. I can also just click it here. Maybe I wasn't scrolling far enough. So now we can add it to that list. Which I probably should have tried to type that before changing the word protected so we can see the error message. If we had it, that would have made more sense, like the error message in class. If we hadn't made that protected, we would get an error right here. But instead, we're getting the predicted text. So add whatever the topping is, but it's it's meaty, so we can bypass the add topic and put it in a constructor basically. I haven't done that yet. Public meaty. When we create one, then we'll call the add topping method with null. Because we don't need to pass anything in. We needed to implement that method, and the one we created has something passed in. But we don't have anything to pass in when we already know what goes on the pizza, right? So we can just bypass that and make our method, add that to the list. Toppings add, what would that be? Pepperoni. New pepperoni. Oh, I just forgot the parentheses. So here's pepperoni. Did I spell it right? Looks like it doesn't know what it is. And that's because I did that 20 minutes ago when we organized things. So it's in a different package. Our code only knows what's in the same package. So we need to import that. Pizza.toppings pepperoni. I'm going to do that copy and paste thing again. Sausage. That way we have at least two meats to put on there. A new sausage. And again, import that. Or we could have just imported pizza.toppings.asterisk wildcard selector. Some people like to actually type this stuff instead of trusting the computer to do all the auto typing. All about personal preference. A supreme will be basically the same thing, right? We need to implement that method, which, yeah, I'll click a button for the implement the abstract method. And then I'm going to implement a constructor, alt insert, generate a constructor, and very, very little typing here, but the constructor is just going to call that method and pass in null, because we don't need to pass anything in. We know what goes on the supreme pizza. We can say toppings.add a new pepperoni. Toppings.add a new green pepper. And toppings.add new mushrooms. Supremes might also have onions. Yeah, I think a Supreme also is supposed to have onions, but didn't make an onion yet, so that's probably a good start. Does everything we're doing make sense here? You see how all those pieces from the past couple modules tie together? And hopefully take the stuff from previous classes a couple steps further as far as what we're doing with them. What else do we have? Custom. A custom, well, here, extend specialty. Implement the abstract method, and then here we really do just need to add stuff to that list over and over and over again, one copy at a time as it gets ordered, right? So that's easy. Toppings being passed in. So we'll just say toppings add topping. The one that was actually predicted there. Whoops. If I could use the predictive text correctly instead of just deleting what it tried to put there. It automatically tried to type it. So that's everything I had in mind. I guess the menu one might be a problem. I wanted to finish by 8, which leaves 5 minutes. So over in place order, this is already going to be called, so it doesn't matter if we put this in a main method, or put it in a JavaFX GUI. If we put it in a swing GUI, because Java can't get rid of that without getting rid of backward compatibility. If we put it under a website, if we have it as a servlet, running text across SSH somewhere. If we put it on a phone app, wherever we call it from, all we need to do to start it is this. And then we need to know, and then the way I like to do it is actually put that stuff in the constructor. So so we don't need a second method. If it makes more sense in your mind to organize it that way, it's just that dot some other method. At least the way my mind thinks is that starting point, I usually give it a verb name, and then all of the stuff goes in the constructor. So Alt insert a default constructor, and everything's going to go here. So when we place an order, we need to ask the user what they want. I guess they might order. Do we know how many pizzas they're going to order? Probably not, right? But so then it comes to what type of list we want. We don't know in advance how many they're going to order, so an array is not going to work for us. So probably an array list or a linked list. And it comes back to how it grows. I'm thinking just like the toppings earlier, pizzas are going to grow one at a time. Some people are going to order 1 pizza, 2 pizzas, 3 pizzas. Then we might jump up to like 25 pizzas. But we don't need to increase 8 or 16 or 24 or 32 at a time. We can just increase by 1, which means a linked list instead of an array list. Linked list of pies. Call order just pies. That follows the naming convention I use elsewhere. Since we talked about refactoring, part of refactoring is variable names. You want to make sure your stuff has good names and your naming conventions are consistent. Right? You don't want to name your list like on the other side, the other class, the same project, we named our linked list after the data type. So to be consistent and make it easier for somebody else to look at our code and figure out what's going on, it makes sense to do the same thing on this linked list, name it after our data type. Import. And import again, I think, yep, import. Now why is it underlined? Illegal start of expression. What? Did I make a typo there somewhere? Private linked list of pi. Gets imported. But pies is assigned, oh, new. That error message was useless. It said the error was at the beginning, but it was missing the keyword new. I guess no surprises there. And I guess now it's 1 minute today, because it's gonna take longer than that. We need a menu to order from, right? So system.out, what type of, yeah. What type of crust? We'll probably need a scanner. Scanner keyboard is a new scanner on system.in. Oh, scanner object. And then we can probably want to show them the options, right? So menu driven, what type of crust isn't enough? What type of crust? Then I'll put and get rid of the print line. Then a line break. One for thin crust. A line break. Two for what were the options? Deep dish. Line break 3 for antos. Thank you. And line break and 4 for gluten free. And I'm gonna add something else. I'm gonna add line break tab. That way we have prompt, then indent the questions. But that's just a formatting thing. And when we get that, well, we need a new pie to work on. So next pizza is a new pie. And then once we know what crust it is, we can use the center for that. Oh, pie is abstract, so we can't make it a new pie. We can make it either a specialty or a custom order. So I guess we need to ask for that first. System.out, will this be a specialty? Or a custom order? Or a custom pizza? And I'm gonna quote marks on that. We don't really do object. We don't do a whole lot of menu driven stuff anymore unless we're writing like a shell script, but I'll put quote marks around it or something so that they can see enter that directly, enter either specialty or custom. Oops. With the quote marks here. And then that'll tell us what pie we want. I guess we need the scanner way up here at the beginning then. Then string type is keyboard.next. Seen all that stuff, right? And if type dot equals specialty. Otherwise, it's custom. Then so I'm going to declare that we have it, and once they tell us what type it is, then we can initialize it. So next pizza is going to be our next pizza is a new special. I guess we need a bunch more prompts, don't we? The specialty is still abstract, isn't it? System got out. Will that be meaty or supreme? And if we weren't running really short on time here, we kind of get that. And once again, we already checked that, so we have that variable, so we can reuse that type again, or just make a new one. Personally, I think it's more useful to make a new one. More organized in the code, probably more efficient to reuse that string. But if we're only doing it like one time, it's not going to be, we're not losing much. I think the code makes, so back to personal style, but string choice is keyboard.next. And if choice equals either one meaty, might be a little shorter to type. Otherwise, so if it's meaty, then next pizza, whoops. Next pizza is going to be a new meaty. Else next pizza is a new supreme. And do the imports for those. If it's not a meaty or supreme, then it's going to be a custom one. Next pizza is a new, was it just called custom? Yeah. And then we can start adding toppings to it. As out. What topping do you want? Which, when not running short on time, probably just probably add a whole menu there. That'd be something y'all can do after class. Do on your own. Just practice syntax and make sure everything's making sense. I'm going to cut time short. Nope, you can't have green peppers. So obviously not a finished version here, but then we can do next pizza add topping a new green pepper. Which on a GUI, we would probably have that passed in from a button or a checkbox. But running very short on time here. I think that gets us up to the point that we can do everything. Oh, I forgot to calculate price, didn't I? I implements pricing. Specialty has a price. Does custom have a price? Oh, wait, special, custom wasn't the type, yeah. That's what I forgot. Custom wasn't supposed to be a child with specialty. Extends fine. Custom's the alternative to special. Implement abstract methods. So then we have that list. So for I equals 0, I is less than toppings that size. I plus plus. So we'll just walk through that and grab the price of each topic. Sorry, I was supposed to, I think that's from getting late and trying to shove all this into 2 hours. I got almost all the steps in there, but I just said it out loud. Been sitting there typing for a minute. Loop through and toppings, yes. So we'll probably need a price here. Private. Oh, actually, it doesn't need to be an overall one. It can be a local one. Local scope is better on memory usage. Local scope is often preferred to global scope. We don't want to keep things around longer than we need because that's just being wasteful in RAM. So a double called price starts at 0. And as we loop through, price increments by toppings dot get the next item dot calculate cost. That was our interface, the plugs that fit together. How those various pieces of code plug into each other and connect. And then afterwards we can return price. Two hours is a very short period of time to sit there and try to type a whole bunch of code. And we skipped a lot of steps, but hopefully it's making sense. The main thing is those background, those side notes, right? The things that I'm hoping you're going to keep in the back of your mind because we don't generally have time to do really big things in a classroom. Right now, from both of whatever the next pi is, then we get the crust. Which I'm just going to skip the crust. It won't hurt anything if we don't use it. Just to go ahead and finish this up, we'll print out the price. S out. Skipping the crust. That was just to work in an example of an enu, and it's not going to crash anything else. If we say our pizza place only has one type of crust. The traditional New York, when the real Brooklyn pizza place is where the old Italian guy only makes one type of crust. And it's going to get pretty angry if you ask him for something different. Because that's what his family's made for 5 generations or something.
No Pepsi and Coke. No Pepsi and Coke.
Yes.
Cheeseburger.
Will be plus next pizza calculate cost plus today. Which we've already seen how to format that, right? We have currency formatting where we can tie it into the GPS thing. So as long as the machine it's running on knows our location. And desktop applications don't have to ask. Your browser, the website has to ask, but desktop application doesn't have to ask for GPS coordinates, and then it can just use the appropriate currency. We've seen that before, or just Google currency in Java, and it'll bring that back up. I think we can test it. Will this be a specialty or custom pizza? Let's try a specialty. And a meaty. And we get a price. I think that's the right one.
Run it again. Custom pizza. Oh, yeah. I ignored the toppings out of everything but green peppers. And the right price shows up. I'm probably not quite the right price. Probably need a base price for that. Now it's just debugging. You all know that process. That was most of the notes I wanted to say. I'll go ahead and throw this in there. The base price, I guess we do need to make that global. Private price is $17 for the base. And then we'll increment. We'll increment it topping by topping. Oh, private. Double alt price. We'll run that again. A custom pizza. And it's gonna be $17.85 with $17.85, and then you all know how to do a loop, right? Syntax. So you get your starting point, you can extend it, practice syntax. I think that was, I got in all the notes that I was wanting to, but trying to shove that in quickly, I did forget at least one very important piece of code when we did this. The whole, one of the main things that I was wanting to look at is now our connecting points, our interface, just like the plugs on this KVM switch. The computer is ready to plug into whatever machine is brought over to. Or, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 types of standard plugs. So whatever laptop somebody comes into the GRE lab with, they should have one of those plugs available on their machine. That's what our interface is, a virtual version of that. We have different reasons to use abstract, right? The textbook made them look interchangeable. That was all the notes. I meant to finish about 15 minutes ago. Does anybody have any questions? And do you see why I pushed that back till after the break? I didn't want to do this to you the Thursday before the week off, because everybody was exhausted then. I don't know why I originally planned and thought that would be a good one for the Thursday right before the break. But sort of a larger example, the stuff we normally don't take time for in a classroom. Any questions about that stuff tonight? It will be on GitHub, and I'm pretty sure this one will work. So the thing with GitHub is, as time shows up, we'll look at stuff on that. But anything that fits in a classroom, I'm pretty sure will work with the regular uploads here. Is everything saved? Oh yeah, I just ran it. So when you run it at most IDEs, it will automatically save all the files. It's 100 file limit to put things on here, but I'm pretty sure we're, even with this big one, 37 files, we could make something 3 times as big before we can't use the easy drag and dropping. Yeah. So it's there if you want to look at it. Those side notes, the stepping away, that was kind of the big thing. That's the one I hope you're keeping in the back of your mind for on down the road. Little tips that'll hopefully be helpful for you, and kind of some side notes about what's going on and stuff. It's there on the GitHub, SDEV 200-fall 2022. I think I put that on our IAV Learn page. It's probably been 5 seconds since I asked if anybody had any questions. I'll give it like a couple more seconds. All right, I assume the silence means no questions. That was about 20 minutes longer than I meant for it to be. I was hoping to be finished by 8, but still have a little bit of class time left. As always, please use it productively. I'm going to be sitting here ready to answer questions until 8:50, unless I'm the last person on campus, in which case I'll probably head back to Clarksville, but that's 5 minutes down the road. 10 minutes down the road if I take the slow way. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all on Thursday, and we will get started into MySQL, which will include things that aren't part of that default installation of the language, because they will all be the same once we see how to do it with one library. We'll know how to do it with all of them. Y'all have a great night. See you Thursday.